A cold wind once swept across the plains of Manchuria, rattling the barbed wire of a compound that officially did not exist. Locals whispered about it in the same way people whisper about haunted forests or cursed rivers, quietly, nervously, always with a hint of dread. They spoke of trucks that arrived full and left empty, of doctors who never practiced medicine, and of shadows that moved behind guarded walls. What they didn't know then, and what the world would only learn decades later, is that this place, hidden in plain sight, housed one of the most chilling chapters in modern history. Unit 731 began not with a building, but with a belief, the idea that victory in war required mastery over life itself. In the 1930s, as the Japanese Empire sought dominance over East Asia, a brilliant and ambitious physician, Shiro Ishii, persuaded military leaders that biological warfare was the weapon of the future. Ishii had a remarkable talent for gaining approval. He spoke with the confidence of a visionary, convincing officials that microbes could do what armies could not. Behind his ideas lay a promise of power that seemed almost limitless. With funding secured, Ishii's vision grew rapidly. An enormous complex arose near Harbin. Laboratories, barracks, testing chambers, even a crematorium. To the outside world, it appeared to be a water purification plant. Inside, it became something very different. Scientists in white coats moved through corridors with a sense of purpose, documenting, measuring, preparing. Here, research was not conducted on petri dishes or lab rats. Here, the subjects were human. But this fact remained hidden from the world. Even many within the military did not fully understand the scope of what was happening behind those gates. The full truth would slip out in fragments, in testimonies half-whispered and long suppressed. What makes Unit 731's story so haunting is not only what happened there, but the atmosphere of normalcy that surrounded it. Workers commuted, families lived nearby, and Ishii himself was known to throw parties and socialize. It creates a chilling contradiction, extraordinary cruelty unfolding beside ordinary life. This contradiction forces us to confront a question that history asks again and again. How far can human beings go when they believe their actions are justified by the needs of a nation? Inside Unit 731, scientists pursued their research with obsessive zeal. They studied infectious diseases, not to cure them, but to understand how they spread, how fast they killed, and which conditions made them most effective. They tested extreme temperatures and pressure. They observed the progression of illnesses step by step, recording everything. It was science, stripped of morality, exploration unbound by limits. One of the most disturbing truths about the unit is how methodical its work was. Reports were written, charts filled in, data organized neatly. There was no chaos here, only calculation. It makes the story feel colder than almost anything else in wartime history. Yet even amid this darkness, small acts of humanity occasionally broke through. Some guards later confessed that they could not bear to watch. Others said they feared speaking up. Survivors in nearby villages remembered moments when unknown workers quietly offered kindness or warnings, hinting at their own silent torment. These moments do not erase what happened. They remind us that even in the bleakest places, conscience refuses to disappear entirely. As the Second World War turned against Japan, Unit 731 expanded its work. The leadership believed biological weapons might offer a decisive advantage. Fleas carrying deadly diseases were bred and released, over Chinese cities. Balloons carrying microbes were launched with the hope of reaching foreign shores. Many of these attempts failed, but the intent was clear. Science had been weaponized with terrifying ambition. Then came 1945. As Japanese forces began to retreat, something remarkable happened inside the compound. Documents were burned, facilities were destroyed. Workers were sworn to secrecy. The unit vanished almost overnight, erased as though it had never existed. What remained were empty buildings, scattered ashes, and rumors that seemed too unimaginable to believe. For years, silence smothered the truth. Survivors who tried to speak were dismissed. Reports were buried. The world, exhausted from war, did not know what questions to ask, and some authorities had reasons not to ask them. A final twist in this story came when members of Unit 731 were granted immunity in exchange for sharing their research. The irony is unsettling. A unit that destroyed so many records ultimately ensured its survival in history through the knowledge it provided. But secrets do not stay buried forever. Gradually, testimonies emerged. Former members aged, and some decided to speak, burdened by memories they could no longer carry alone. Historians uncovered documents once thought lost. Villagers recalled incidents that now made eerie sense. A picture began to form. Fragmented, haunting, but undeniable. What's most striking is how long it took for the full story to surface. Decades passed before Unit 731 was widely acknowledged beyond Asia. Even now, parts of its history remain contested. But the core truth stands. Behind the gates of that compound was a program that pushed human experimentation to its most chilling extremes. Yet the story does not end there. In the decades that followed, activists, survivors, families, and historians worked tirelessly to ensure the memory of Unit 731 would not be forgotten. Their efforts turned whispers into lessons, and lessons into reminders for future generations. The legacy of Unit 731 forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about human nature. It shows how easily authority can justify unimaginable actions, how ordinary people can be swept into extraordinary wrongdoing, and how secrecy can shield even the darkest deeds. But it also highlights the power of memory, the refusal to let silence become erasure. Today, the site of Unit 731 stands partly preserved, not as a monument to cruelty, but as evidence. Visitors describe a heavy stillness in the air, as though the ground itself remembers. And in a sense, it does. Every artifact, every corridor, every preserved structure testifies to what happens when science is severed from ethics, when war overrides conscience, and when human beings are treated as means rather than ends. The tale of Unit 731 is not just a story of what a government or a military unit did. It is a warning, a reminder that progress can become perilous when stripped of humanity, and that even the most advanced minds can lose themselves when driven by ideology and ambition. As history continues to unfold, the responsibility falls to us, not simply to learn what happened, but to understand why it happened, and to ensure that the world remembers the lessons carved from that hidden compound in Manchuria. Because the most dangerous stories are not the ones we tell, but the ones we allow to vanish.